Hello viewers, my name is Media13 and welcome back to another episode of the return of everyone's favourite Letterboxd logged show, It's Last Month I Watched. I will say right off the bat, this one's going to be disjointed because what you're seeing right now is the morning after I originally recorded. I lost half the footage, I lost the first half of the video, so I'm having to re-record it this morning, so at some point I'll let you know when, pretty early on. We're going to jump ahead to last night where I was a lot more sleep deprived, and I feel like you can tell that. However, for those of you that are new around here, I honestly can't imagine that you are, but if you don't understand how this series works based off the title alone, honestly probably a little slow, but I'll let you off. This is the show where we sit down and take a look at everything we watched the month prior, this being everything that I watched in July 2025. So with all the disclaimers out of the way, let's just dive right into it. We're starting things off on the 1st because I watched 2 movies on this day. Scream was the first movie of the month. You know, we've thrown this one right in at the deep end. Favourite movie of all time. Long-term viewers of the channel will know this. I love this movie, I adore it, and, fun fact, I did just finish drafting the first rendition of a video essay script for it, so I'm finally covering it. When that video will actually come out, I'm not sure. There's other stuff in the works first, but I love this movie. I adore it. I adore everything about it. I don't normally typically call a movie perfect, but I think that Scream is probably the closest I will ever get to deeming a movie that way. In fact, I do deem it that way. Also in the first, I followed it up with a film called He Never Left, which, as you can tell by the star rating beside me, I didn't have a whole lot of fun with. I think there were some interesting ideas here. It was very interestingly shot. I will admit that I did like the cinematography, and I felt like I was in for a treat with the first 5 minutes. Unfortunately, it never really capitalised on the interest that it had gained with me, and it lost me as a result. On the 2nd, I rewatched 28 Days Later. This was one that I hadn't seen for a couple of years now. It was due a rewatch, especially with the release of the new film coming out last month. I really like this one. I still think it's a fantastic movie. I think Cillian Murphy is fantastic here. He admittedly spends a little bit nude, which ironically was a sign of things to come for this franchise. But yeah, fantastic movie. There's really not a whole lot wrong with this. I love the world that's built. I love the ideas that are presented. I love the way that it's evolved over the course of the film. I love this rendition or this like fresh take on the zombie apocalypse. I think it's a really unique idea, and it's one that I don't really think has been topped in terms of establishing a real fear factor. I do really commend that. However, that is now obviously the end of the Jordan being fully functioning and awake part of this video. You're now going to see what I mean in a few minutes. Like I say, it wasn't long, it wasn't much of the video that I'd lost. But yeah, I'm going to pass you on to that guy now, and good luck. On the 3rd, I watched a movie called Stop Motion, and was honestly pleasantly surprised with how much I actually enjoyed it. This was one that I'd wanted to watch for a while, but I kept putting it off because, quite frankly, I just couldn't be bothered sitting down with it. But I eventually did, and like I say, pretty good movie, definitely worth the time. Would I watch it again? Most likely. I genuinely think I would. It had that sort of appeal to it. I loved the visuals of it, I loved the performances in it. I think overall just a very strong film, and that's represented in the fact that I gave it a 4-star. On to the 5th, we had a double whammy. We started things off with 28 Weeks Later, which was admittedly a first time watch that I was not incredibly fond of. There has been better films in this franchise, clearly. I do think that there is a lot of things that this movie could have done better. My speech is starting to go. But overall, did I hate it? No. Did I like it? We followed that up literally 2 hours later, but 28 years later. And for a while, for a few days anyway, it was my movie of the year. I think this thing was groundbreaking. I did obviously cover it on the channel. You're welcome to go and watch that if you want my thoughts on it more in depth than you're going to get here. I'm also just noticing now that I am lit incredibly poorly. Holy shit. I loved 28 Years Later. I thought it was fantastic. I definitely think you should watch it if you haven't already. I then followed that up on the 6th with Jurassic World Rebirth. I'm going to be honest, I just don't think dinosaur movies are for me. I gave it a 2-star. I've covered it already on the channel. And I'm going to move on because, quite frankly, like I say, my speech is starting to go and I'd rather not waste it on movies that I didn't like very much. The Suicide Squad was my movie of choice for the 9th. Good movie. Good movie, I enjoy it. I feel like I've spoke about it before on the channel. I did have a review on it. Whether it's still viewable, I don't know. But obviously, as you can see, I gave it a 4-star. I think it's a very strong movie with some very fun performances, and it's one that I keep going back to. I've watched this one multiple times, and I'll probably watch it multiple more. I fucking love James Gunn. I don't know what else I can say there. And that is encapsulated by what turned out to be my first viewing on the 12th of Superman. Now, I'm going to keep it a $1.50. I had issues with this thing. You're going to find out because there is a video essay coming out on it. Probably the next thing that you're going to see on the channel, most likely, if not a Naked Gun review. So I do want to measure what I reveal here, but I will say that I did enjoy it here, and I obviously gave it a 4.5 star. We then watched F1. This was a rewatch. I obviously watched it for the first time last month. This time I was watching it with my girlfriend, who I convinced to come and give it a shot, and she also really enjoyed it. But to be fair to her, we're not here for her film opinions, we're here for mine. I'm sorry, Christy, like I say, I'm very tired. It is 20-1. F1, is a 5-star rewatch, easy, no problem. And then on the 16th, I watched I Know What You Did Last Summer. This was the 1997 movie. I got a lot of time for this one. I do really like it. I've obviously covered it on the channel, recurring theme with this sort of thing by now. It's a clever movie. I love that it takes what works with Scream and it still plays itself serious. It doesn't delve too far into the comedic side of things, albeit some scenes do come across as unintentionally funny. Just very strong movie. Same can't be really said for the sequels though. So on the 17th, for the first time, I watched the sequel, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which was fun. It had some moments, but I wasn't necessarily in love with it. But my fucking god, was it better than the shower of shite I watched on the 18th. I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer might go down as one of the worst things I've ever seen. I do want to say as well, that opinion is not at all influenced by Dead Meat. I understand there's a Ghostface James over in that shelf if you can see him. But I promise you, James A. Janice, legal disclaimer, did not influence my opinion on this whatsoever. It's just a trash fucking movie. I still dislike Prom Night more, I think, because I have more of a vendetta against that movie. But this is fucking close. But then anyway, we then watched the requel movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I really honestly think we need to start giving them different titles, because it can't go on like this.
It can.
I Know What You Did Last Summer is fine. It's inoffensive, and it did admittedly piss me off a little bit, but that's not the point. I've obviously covered it on the channel. You're more than welcome to go and see my lengthy thoughts on it, but to summarise, I'm very vindicated by the ending. I do not like it in the slightest. I think it goes a long way in dismantling a character that has been around obviously since the first one. I think they tried to do this commentary on the whole legacy character thing, where they all come back to save the day. Doesn't fucking work. Doesn't work at all for me. On the 19th, I then rewatched Superman. Now, this rewatch hit different for me. As you can see, I obviously bumped it up half a star to make it 10, or 5, sorry. I adore this movie, and you'll find out why very, very soon. I just hope that you guys watch it, because my superhero stuff recently hasn't been the greatest. On the 21st, I rewatched The Transporter. Now, for long-time viewers again, you'll know that I am a very big fan of dumb action movies, specifically ones starring Jason Statham. I think he's a really fun actor. I think he gets up to a lot of pretty kooky things sometimes, and The Transporter is one that I watched when I was younger. I'm pretty sure it was my dad's DVD that I stole just because of the fact that I wanted something different to watch that wasn't Wallace and Gromit. Uncultured swine that I was, looking for something other than Peak. But yeah, it's a 3.5 star movie. I don't think it's great, but I think a lot of nostalgia heavy lifting is being done here. On the 24th, the night before I headed to Manchester for a Comic-Con, I watched Scream 6, sorry. It was a fun time revisiting this. I did enjoy it, justice for Melissa Barrera and boycott the 7th shower of shite that's coming out. Free Palestine, don't know if that needs to be said, nor was it, or if it was necessarily wanted, but I wanted to say it, so have it that. On the 25th in Manchester, I went to the cinema to watch Fantastic Four First Steps, and I liked it. But I do think there's issues here. I don't think it's by any means my favourite superhero project of the year. In fact, it's third out of the 4. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. I just like the other ones so much more, and they don't have nearly as many issues. I also don't think this one's going to have very much rewatchability. I haven't seen it again yet, so I can't attest to that. But it's the only superhero project this year that I haven't wanted to go and watch again, despite the fact that it's not necessarily the one I've liked the least. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to revisit it when it comes out on digital or physical, whether or not it still holds up half as well. But we'll see. You never know. Maybe I'll think it's fantastic. That was unintentional. On the 29th, back from Manchester, I sat down to watch a classic that has evaded me for the longest time, that being The Silence of the Lambs. This one, if you can't tell by my rating, was one that I enjoyed thoroughly. I would like to go and I'd like to go and watch the other parts of this trilogy now, because I honestly thought this was breathtaking. I only gave it a 4.5. I shied away from a 5 just because it gives me an excuse to go back and rewatch it to justify bumping it up. But there's not like a moment wasted here. I can't say too much because, let's be real, it's been out since 1991. Everything positive about this movie to be said has already been said. On the 30th, I watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, or as I've put it on the overlay here because it was too long a name, the Nick Cage movie. I think it's dumb fun. I think if you shut your mind off, this is a pretty great way to spend a couple hours. I think Nicolas Cage is funny. I think Pedro Pascal is funny. There's a lot of good times to be had here. I've obviously seen this one. This is a rewatch. I did a review on it back when it first came out, and obviously I would have touched on it in the last month I watched of that year. But yeah, fun movie. I do enjoy it quite a bit. On the 31st then, I then watched The Materialists, which is a new release from this year, also starring Pedro Pascal, also with Chris Evans and Dakota Johnson. Again, I enjoyed it. It was a good movie. I gave it 3.5 stars, if you can't tell by the rating here. I feel like I'm doing these movies a disservice. I feel like I'm doing these movies a disservice because of how tired I am, but honestly, this has to be filmed tonight, so I don't really have much of a chance to change things. I enjoyed The Materialist. I thought it was a very poignant film with some very... I'm just making up fucking words. It was a good movie. I can't keep doing this. And to round out the month, we watched The Grudge. This is the 2004 remake starring Sarah Michelle Gellar that I am hoping to cover in some capacity before the end of the year. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is everything and anything movie-wise that I watched in July. But as we move on to the summary section, you can see it beside me. I introduced this last month, but I can't remember if I brought it up. But this is where I then ask you what you've been watching this month. What's been your favourite first time watch? What's been your favourite... What's been your favourite watch? What's been your least favourite watch? Just let me know in general what you've been looking at. Anything interesting, anything uninteresting, anything that you'd want to talk about with the class. I'm going to get myself to bed after I've done some editing and cried a little bit because of how tired I am. But until next time, I've been Media13 and I'll be seeing you.